But some workers' groups still staging protests now because of high fuel prices. Our correspondent Rex Remigio is in Philcoa in Quezon City to tell us more. Rex, what are their demands so far?
Protesters are saying that 200 peso cash aid for 12 million poorest Filipinos is not enough. What they want is the suspension of oil taxes despite the big-time oil price rollback next week. The government has earlier disapproved the suspension of fuel excise tax, saying it's too much for government coffers. Now, protesters are holding demonstrations in different parts of Quezon City and Manila, while for some workers, meanwhile, while they're grateful for having jobs after the pandemic, they're saying that having enough income is a different story.
Felicissimo Orsino is welding pieces of metal on a sidewalk along Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City. He endures the scorching heat for 650 pesos a day for his wife and 3 kids.
Kahit pa paano, may pantustos na sa pamilya. Okay na rin po, kaysa sa wala.
His fellow worker Olan Gazingan is on contract for a certain period. He earns less at 400 pesos a day with a wife and a kid to feed. He says the amount is better than having none like what he went through at the height of the pandemic.
Siyempre po, para sa pamilya natin po yan, mahalaga po talaga yan para meron tayong pang-araw-araw na kakainin, ganyan, paggastos.
Fewer Filipinos were jobless in January compared to December. The numbers are improving as the economy reopens further. That's the lowest unemployment rate since the 17.4% in April 2020, when lockdowns forced companies to lay off workers. While employment numbers are better, the ranks of underemployed or those whose income is not enough went up. For Felicissimo and Olan, having work is one thing, having the means to get by is another. Although the expected hefty fuel price cut next week will be a relief for many, the workers hope they would somehow benefit from it. They say food and rice are getting less affordable with their small take-home pay. The government's 200 peso monthly cash aid could hardly make a difference.
Baliwala rin po. Kasi kada buwan, hindi na po araw-araw. Kailangan pa rin po kumayod para kahit pa paano may pantustos.
At least meron tayong tatanggapin na anumang grasya.
The Social Welfare Department says it's awaiting guidelines on the cash aid distribution from the President's Office and Budget Department.
Titiyakin po natin na magiging maayos yung pagpapahatid ng tulong. Titiyakin din natin na yung iba't ibang programa ng DSWD ay patuloy din yung ma-implement ng maayos.
In the meantime, Felicissimo and Olan are hoping to land more secure jobs and give their family a decent life.
The week-long protests of different workers' groups are set to end today. Are they successful on calling the attention of the government to respond to their demands? Well, for one, they admit that they're not yet successful because the government has yet to heed what they want, but at the same time, they're also saying that their clamor for better policies to respond to high consumer prices will not end tonight. Back to you.
Rex Remigio there reporting from Quezon City. Well, as Filipinos suffer from the impact of soaring fuel prices, a group says the 537 peso minimum wage in Metro Manila is no longer enough. And that's why they've been calling for a 750 peso minimum wage nationwide. Our George Quiles has more.
How far can your 537 pesos go? In a market challenge, the group Bayan Muna prepared a menu for 3 meals for a family of 5. Rice, eggs and coffee for breakfast, rice and sauteed bagoong alamang for lunch, and rice and chicken adobo for dinner. The group also bought bananas for dessert. The total cost for the ingredients, 490 pesos. They still have 47 pesos left to buy coffee, vinegar and soy sauce, and small sachets for the adobo. All these for 537 pesos. That's if you dedicate the entire daily salary for food.
itaas sa 750 ang minimum wage. Itong 537 ay hindi nakakasapat. Pag binawasan pa po natin yan ng bayad sa bahay, kuryente, tubig, kulang na kulang po, mas lalo pong liliit ang 537 pesos natin.
For those earning below the minimum wage like Ayan Balangquit, making ends meet is quite difficult. Balangquit says the government's promised 200 peso monthly subsidy is not even enough to offset the rising prices of goods.
Yung pandesal nga, magkano na? Before, 1 peso lang yun eh. Pero ngayon, 2 pesos na. Oh. Then, magkano na mabibili mo for 3 pieces of pandesal, di ba, sa 6 pesos something? Anong nun? Mabubusog ba yung ano? Pero kung yun ang ibibigay, tatanggapin pa rin, di ba? Kasi wala naman tayong magagawa eh.
CNN Philippines is still reaching out to the Agriculture Department on the impact of rising fuel prices on agricultural products. The Trade Department meanwhile inspected 3 supermarkets in Manila. So far, basic commodities are still within suggested retail prices. Some are even lower.
They have an average of 3 months inventory. If there is any movement at all of the factors that would affect the manufacture of goods, it should not be an instant increase in our prices. You remember po, yung ating SRP bulletin was only released last January 22.
The DTI says at least 10 manufacturers of canned meat and sardines and processed milk have applied for price increases. The agency will still need to study these requests. George Cahides, CNN Philippines.
More calls for an increase in the minimum wage. The Labor Department says there are already 10 petitions and counting filed in 6 different regions.
6 na rehiyon po ang tumanggap na ng mga request for wage hike at meron pong magsisimula po, bubulong po ang proseso ukol dito sa susunod na linggo. Yung NCR po, by next week po, sila po ay magpo-conduct na po ng consultation.
While these petitions are up for discussion, Dole is still waiting for President Duterte's approval of the 24 billion peso wage subsidy, which is recommended to be sourced from his office's contingency funds. The department says the wage subsidy only covers formal sector workers and does not include freelancers. The agency explains small businesses are prioritized as they will be the hardest hit if an increase in the minimum wage gets approved. In world headlines, vaccine maker Moderna is asking the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to allow a second COVID-19 booster dose for individuals aged 18 and up. It says the need follows the emergence of the Omicron variant. Moderna has yet to submit an amendment for its existing emergency use authorization. Pfizer and BioNTech have also asked the U.S. FDA to roll out a 4th dose for people over 65 years old. The firms are studying other possible shots like Omicron-specific vaccines. As countries ramp up vaccination efforts, a role model in COVID-19 response becomes a pandemic hotspot. South Korea breaks its record yet again for the highest number of new cases in a day. Over 600,000 infections were reported on Thursday, a day after the country logged more than 400,000 fresh cases for the first time since the pandemic began. Well, here at home, authorities are not worried about a possible resurgence in cases if the BA.2.2 Omicron subvariant enters the country. Infectious diseases expert Dr. Edsel Salvania says the Philippines may already have a hybrid immunity from the Omicron surge in January and the increase in vaccine coverage.
Kung meron na tayong tinatawag na hybrid immunity, that's when you have vaccination and then you get mild breakthrough infection, protective yan against BA.2.2. So even if makapasok yan dito, chances are hindi na yan magdudulot ng kasing laking spike dahil meron na tayong exposure dito. So the other things na nakakatulong sa atin, unang-una, marami tayong klase ng bakuna. Because we have different kinds of vaccines, particularly inactivated vaccines, mas resilient yung ating vaccines overall sa mga variants.
The health department also notes biosurveillance at ports of entry are maintained. We're still tracking the situation in Ukraine. Russia continues its attacks on the city of Lviv as the war enters its 23rd day. Russian troops fired 6 missiles at the city close to the Polish border, but 2 were intercepted by air defense systems. In the capital, Kyiv, 1 person was killed, 4 others injured after a fire at a residential building. The blaze broke out after the remains of a downed rocket hit the 5-story building. 12 people were rescued, 98 others were evacuated. We have more stories when we return. Another set of debates between presidential and vice presidential hopefuls are happening this weekend. We'll tell you what to expect next. And finance officials want the Bureau of Internal Revenue to collect the unpaid estate taxes of the Marcos family. Stay tuned to Newsnight.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. The stage is all set for the Commission on Elections' first presidential and vice presidential debates this weekend. Melissa Lopez gives us a glimpse of what to expect.
Presidential and vice presidential hopefuls returned to the Sofitel Harbor Garden tent to take part in a series of official COMELEC debates for the upcoming elections. It was the venue when they filed their certificates of candidacies 5 months ago. This weekend, it will be a place to show Filipinos who is deserving of their vote. 9 of 10 presidential bets will face off on Saturday, March 19th. Bongbong Marcos will skip the debate again. Meanwhile, 7 of 9 vice presidential candidates will stand on one stage for the Sunday debate hosted by COMELEC and its private partner, Vote Pilipinas. Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte will not attend. The leftmost portion of the tent has been converted into a stage. Non-participating candidates will be represented by empty podiums. along with a ban from airing free content on COMELEC's e-rally Facebook page until the end of the campaign period. For 2 hours, candidates are expected to respond to questions beginning 7 in the evening. Titled Pilipinas Debates 2022, The Turning Point, the event will have candidates talk about their plans to rise from the pandemic and revive the economy.
Ang publiko, inaayahan natin manood ng debate. No? Sana makita nila, magkaroon sila ng preview doon sa dadalhing resulta ng ating mga kandidato. And we think that it will be very relevant for them, lalo't ngayon yung panahon na magdidesisyon sila tungkol sa sino ang iboboto nila.
All bets will deliver opening and closing statements. During the debate proper, they will have 90 seconds to respond, plus 30 seconds to clarify a point. In keeping with pandemic protocols, COMELEC will not let the public watch on site. Candidates may bring up to 10 family and staff members with them who will occupy these seats, while up to 5 members per media outlet, including technical staff, are allowed inside the venue. Everyone must wear masks and present either proof of vaccination or a negative RT-PCR test upon entry. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Our senior correspondent and anchor Ruth Cabal will moderate the vice presidential debate on Sunday. All the debates will air on TV stations, including CNN Philippines, and on our Facebook page. For one presidential candidate, the public cannot expect accountability from those who skip debates. Anjo Alimario has that and other updates on the aspirants 52 days before the Filipino votes.
Senator Manny Pacquiao has cautioned the public that it cannot expect accountability from candidates who are not participating in pre-election debates. He said if these aspirants are elected, they will feel more entitled to do things without concern for public consultation. He also insisted that the public has the right to know the platforms and characters of all candidates. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos seeks to increase the salary of teachers by upgrading their salary grade level from 11 to 15. He noted that this is necessary as a way to further thank them for molding the students to be better citizens of the country. He also pushed for the teachers' retraining and refresher courses. Former education officials are expressing their support for the candidacy of Vice President Leni Robredo and her running mate Senator Kiko Pangilinan. In a statement, they said the tandem's deep understanding of the challenges of the education sector will bring about the needed reforms. Robredo was in Zamboanga City Thursday evening, where she pushed for the full implementation of the Mandanas ruling to help empower local governments. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno said he is offended by candidates who are campaigning inside churches. He said it is distasteful and unethical to conduct political rallies in the house of God. He also insisted on doing a campaign that directly goes to the people instead of gathering them to show up in sorties. Senator Panfilo Lacson said he is unfazed by his poor performance in the surveys as he acknowledges his friends for their contributions in his campaign. He said that these contributions prove his supporters' belief in his fight for good governance. He also stressed that the real survey will be done on May 9. Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.
The Finance Department is pushing the Bureau of Internal Revenue to collect the unpaid estate taxes of the Marcos family to generate more revenue amid the oil crisis. The BIR wrote to the Marcoses to pay the estate taxes worth 203 billion pesos.
In general, we have been pushing the BIR and the Bureau of Customs to collect revenue and to look for sources of revenue because, as you know, we really need more funds given the situation. As for how they have been approaching the heirs, we are not quite privy because it's the BIR handling it.
Presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos earlier said there is plenty of misinformation on his family's unpaid estate taxes. That's despite a 1997 Supreme Court ruling that they must settle their liabilities, which amounted to 23 billion pesos at the time. As for presidential candidate Leody de Guzman and his running mate Walin Bello, the 200 peso subsidy for the poorest households is not enough to keep the economy afloat and amid soaring oil prices. The tandem insists the government should suspend fuel taxes.
Yung bibigyan na 200, prop lang yan eh. Tulad ng mga nakaraan. Kunyari nagbigay pero malaking bahagi ng mga tao ay hindi naman nakatanggap.
Kasi ang hirap talaga ipatupad yan. It favors just certain groups. It's prone to corruption.
The Guzman and Bello support calls to ban private cars on the road once or twice a week. A business tycoon believes the next administration should focus on economic recovery. San Miguel President and CEO Ramon Ang did not name names, but he says he's looking forward to a post-pandemic recovery. Ang adds that the Philippines has been resilient and that it will grow faster than its neighboring countries.
I think the economy will grow very quickly. Especially kung yung bagong gobyerno marunong mag-focus on economic recovery program. Kamukha ng how to grow GDP and how to create more employment. I don't want to talk about any candidate. Basta I will support whoever become president, just like before, remember? We should tell our politicians to concentrate in helping the people. Concentrate in running the government on a good governance basis and also concentrate in generating more jobs.
Ang also says the government should build more export processing zones, empower the local manufacturing sector, and develop agriculture. More stories ahead. Another pageant crown for the Philippines with a Miss Eco International win. Plus, candidates for Miss Universe Philippines take on the swimsuit challenge. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Efforts underway to protect the La Mesa watershed in Quezon City through reforestation and ensure the sustainability of the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System, or MWSS. A Million Trees Nursery and Eco Learning Center targets growing 500,000 trees. It'll also serve as a learning hub for environmental protection. The Million Tree Foundation, or MTFI, has planted 5.2 million trees in 5 years, and it plans to produce 10 million more until 2030.
It's a miracle in itself how we transform this place in 4 or 5 months.
Hindi lang sapat yung pagtatanim, kailangan din matuto tayo mag-alaga. At isa rin yun sa mga natutunan namin in this exercise, in this period. Prior to the Million Tree Challenge, I think we were more focused on planting the trees. Pero hindi yun, importante rin ang mabuhay yung mga itinanim natin. So nag-invest din ho kami sa pag-alaga dun sa mga naitanim.
In San Miguel Corporation President and Chief Executive Officer Ramon Ang, one of the partners of MTFI, attended the inauguration and opening of facilities. In entertainment, the Philippines proves why it's considered a pageant powerhouse with our very own Kathleen Paton crowned Miss Eco International. This is the country's second title from the event. When asked in the Q&A portion if beauty queens should remain neutral on social issues, Kathleen said they must use their voices to get others to stand up for what is right. Candidates from Belgium, USA, Spain, and Malaysia were the runners-up for Miss Eco International. On to another pageant stage. The Miss Universe Philippines pre-pageant competitions are heating up. Here's a look at the 2022 Swimsuit Challenge video entries featuring 49 candidates vying for the crown. Photos of the challenge were also posted online. You can vote for the winner through the Miss Universe Philippines app until Sunday, 12 p.m. The pageant is scheduled for April 30 at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay City. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.